Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm from Serenity Hypnosis Center. And today we're going to be going over how anxiety hypnosis works and what you might need to do to prepare for a session in general, right? So to start, I just want to go over basically the entire process of the hypnosis. Some people do it differently than others, but the essential end result or the end goal would be to change how you perceive anxiety. Because basically, the difference between anxiety and excitement is just happy hormones. It's just like feeling good before. I know it sounds kind of simple, but there's like excitement, anticipation, if you can remember when you were a kid and you knew that after school maybe you were going to get some ice cream or you can pick up some toys or something, uh, so that would be excitement, and it's also like anxiousness. Oh well, maybe there's not the right toy, maybe you won't have your favorite ice cream, or maybe they'll be out of something else, or maybe there'll be an emergency or whatever it might be. um, there's still that presence, but uh, the feeling of happiness is so overwhelming that it kind of blocks it out. So that's kind of what we try to shift it towards, and also shifting it towards a challenge or a challenge mentality, where basically every single thing that you overcome, you think of yourself better. So there's give and take, but that's primarily what we focus on. Another really big thing, I know a lot of people don't talk about it too much, but especially when it comes to anxiety, looking at caffeine intake, looking at drinking the night before, really anything that can exacerbate how much cortisol or epinephrine you have in your body, and also how much dopamine, serotonin, and everything you also have in it. Because normally, if we have a lot of caffeine, energy drinks, coffee, whatever it might be, what can happen is you have a large increase in cortisol. And cortisol is the fear hormone. And it's basically, seeing an opportunity or seeing a challenge or seeing something that, could be stressful in your life, whatever it might be, or could just be an opportunity to go for something. But seeing it and noting, hey, is this a bad thing? Is it a good thing? If you have too much cortisol in your system, you'll kind of panic, and say, oh, this is a bad thing. And in the opposite way, if you run out or if you use up all of your dopamine reserves, serotonin reserves, oxytocin reserves, whatever it might be, um, if you run out of it, or run low, basically the amount of cortisol percentage wise is just a little bit higher. So then you tend to shift things to that light. Um, this also does happen when we're tired. That's why some people can be a bit snappy when they're tired, or they can feel a bit anxious or scared when they're tired. Same with hunger. You might feel a little bit anxious or scared when you're hungry. So really, dissecting what it might be, that also contributes to it. We do take care of that at Serenity Hypnosis Center, but just noting that there is probably multiple things, especially if there's certain things that might trigger an anxiety um, attack, or something that you walk into, you see something, boom, you feel anxiety. But that tends to go more so with trauma. And there is like different stuff for trauma hypnosis. It's basically a different process than anxiety hypnosis, just because the structure of it's a bit different. But yeah, so yeah, going over those things beforehand and knowing what could be the root cause. It's very important. Another thing that can help, and I know a lot of people probably say this way too much, um, but exercise. um, I know some people are like, oh, just go for a run, go work out, you'll be fine. Uh, and there is some truth to that. Um, but basically, what happens is you kind of have two actions when it comes to dopamine, serotonin. One kind of builds up the reserve. You're building how much your body expects to use. And another action is releasing. So sometimes, if someone has a cigarette, if someone has something to drink, something like that, uh, that's releasing it. And then if you want to build it, because basically, your body only produces enough of what it thinks it will use in a day. So if you start working out, part of the reason why it's very hard at the beginning or hard to get into the routine is because you don't have enough dopamine, serotonin. So you're having that rise in cortisol. And your body will just say, no, no, I don't want to do this. Um, and yeah. So it's because, it hasn't built up. Your brain hasn't told your body, hey, we have to create enough dopamine. So tomorrow, create more. And this basically just happens if you keep on doing consistently. Generally, the general rule of when it stabilizes is about 40 days, 45 days. Um, Depending on who you ask, there's American Council of Exercise. They say one thing. Some different organizations say different things. But the general rule is about a month to 2 months, depending on, which organization you ask. Um, but yeah. um, but yeah, so having that increase, basically what you do is you're able to have enough of a reserve where, even if you do feel a little bit anxious, if you can release it, then you feel really good. And it kind of overcomes it. I don't necessarily recommend releasing it with, alcohol or drinking or something like that, because it can kind of, feed into each other in a negative way. But a really simple thing to do would just be going for a run every morning. So then you get that release. Um, and then it can kind of continue through the day, which does help. And we do actually have a free like add-on type thing for exercise hypnosis and stuff like that. But yeah, so this part we're gonna go over how it works, or like the process of it, of the hypnosis. So generally, at least what we do, um, is we start by noticing three different things that you might see, hear, and feel. And we do this because we want to basically prime your senses. So uh, you know a lot of hypnosis is just priming at the beginning. So then you can get into the appropriate headspace to where you'll be conductive of new ideas, of different ways of thinking. So we like to prime the senses at the beginning. Next, what we like to do is going over this process called Yoga Nidra. And that's basically just being hyper aware of every different part of your body. Again, it's kind of to like just prime the senses again. So like all your toes, your fingers, your head, your hair, your ears, um, and being very aware of it. And it kind of goes off the same ideas of, like a sensory deprivation tank. We're just trying to heighten one sense, or uh, kind of die down other senses, um, except the ones that you can kind of interpret and feel. And then we kind of shift it to, or I guess step three, we shift it over to imagining three different uh, scenes or sceneries. Generally, what we do is either, well, we go over three, but we can also do other ones. But We do a beach, a winter cabin, and a meadow. And the reason we do this is because we want to kind of shift the awareness over to implanting yourself in different um, situations. So then you can start kind of feeling the way that we want you to interpret, the way that you want to feel. Um, so we'll generally go over how the beach is very hot and the waves are really, really cool. We'll go over maybe having a really nice fire in a fireplace in a winter cabin, and outside it's very cold. Um, Maybe eating dinner or running around in a meadow. And then at this point, what we do is we go over this thing called 10 steps, where every single time that you go down an imagined staircase, you get twice as relaxed to the point to where you're completely relaxed and kind of the subconscious takes over. Um, Generally, what you see in TVs, movies of like, oh, hypnosis, right? That generally is Hollywood. It does work, but you still have like full control over yourself and everything. Um, but yeah, and then once we get to that point where you're completely relaxed and you're able to take in new ideas, new information, and everything, then we go over basically shifting your perception of anxiety and excitement. And we generally do this by just taking certain events or certain core ideas and moving it to different ways of thinking about it. And we might, depending on what type of anxiety, we might try to implant certain perceptions like, oh, you really like seeing your friends, you really like being out in public. Any time that you get nervous is just built up excitement. So then we can kind of shift the way that you perceive it. And so, yeah, just shifting how you perceive anxiety and how you perceive these own emotions to just be always beneficial. So then you don't feel anxious anymore. Um, and then what we normally do is we end it with um, basically remembering a certain time in your life, maybe where you overcame anxiety or you felt very, very confident, you felt very sure of yourself. And we do this thing called the dial method, where it's basically doubling the amount of happiness, confidence, things like that, that you feel. And every time we double it, we go up to 10. You feel it all throughout you. And then normally what we'll do is we'll try to implant one point with an LP. And generally it will be between your thumb and index finger. And we like to have it right there. And it can work for either hands, or it can be anywhere. Um, but basically we do that because in case there's ever a situation or anything that you want to basically feel very, very, very confident, all you would have to do is just press it down for about 10 seconds or so, and the body will instinctively just kind of kick back in to feeling very, very happy, very confident. And you can also add on to it and everything. Like if you're in a very good mood, good event, all you have to do is just press that and it will kind of feed into it. It's pretty cool. But yeah. And normally what we like to recommend, because we like to recommend going over it daily. Because normally what we see is, depending on how big the attachment is to the old belief of, oh, I feel anxious, we normally see about 50% of people go through on the first time. And then for a week, what we normally see is about 40% of people, as long as you're doing it daily. that just once a day. Um, as long as you're doing it daily, yeah, we see the other 40% go for that time. And for about 10% of people, what we see is it take 30 days where you just listen to it daily. And the reason we kind of set it up this way is because no matter what your type of thinking is or your type of mentality, it hits every single one of them. I know some people who will do like sessions and say, okay, we have one session, and then half their people are just like, it didn't work. Well, yeah, that's kind of why. Uh, yeah, that's just like standard across the board. It only works for about half people the first time, but we do it free. So we have recordings. We also have a program, so then it's all just pre-made. So then you get all the things that you might want and might want help on, whether it's exercising, feeling happier, feeling less anxious, or whatever it might be. Building relationships, anything. Um, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, because sometimes basically what it is your conscious wants something, your subconscious wants something, so it's easy to just go through. And that's the people who want it, who basically it's done within the first time. The second one is your conscious wants it, your subconscious doesn't, which basically just means, hey, we have to kind of take over. And basically, it's part of it's repetition, and the other part of it is just getting the subconscious onto the consciousness side. And the last one is kind of like begrudgingly, like, oh, I don't really want to do this. This isn't, I don't actually want this, but I'm kind of like forcing myself to. Uh, and that's where like the subconscious and conscious both don't want to. Um, and in that case, it takes the full 30 days because we just rely on repetition. So eventually, it just kind of overtakes the old thought. It's still your thought and everything, um, but it's just the overtaking of the perception and everything. And yeah, um, yeah. We recommend not doing it while driving. Checking with the doctor to make sure, like a mental health professional, to make sure that it's a-okay and everything's fine. Because there are certain contraindications and everything. Um, and yeah, it's pretty simple. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, or if you want to check out more of how it works and everything, check out Serenity Hypnosis Center. We do have a lot of information, and we do have a program for anxiety in case you want to go for anxiety hypnosis. And we also have a lot of articles to kind of help guide you into what you might want to know. Yeah, have a great day.